Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to today's episode of Monday Motivation. I'm Jenny Kovacs, as you can see from up there, nicknamed the Queen of Being Seen, because you being seen and being heard and being completely visible is why I get out of bed every morning, including this morning where I'm feeling a little bit less than 100%. But I wanted to bring this, I think, quite important topic to Monday Motivation, because these Monday Motivations have really been designed to motivate you on your Monday, your morning and your week. So I'm saying good morning to you. If you are like the people who are watching, who are saying hello, like Alan, who's saying morning Jenny, I'm waving back at you. If you're in a situation or a place where you don't want to type or you just want to watch, that is absolutely okay too. I have a number of viewers who watch these live every week and they don't say hello. That is absolutely okay. So why am I talking about the internal audit? Well, you would have heard a couple of expressions that go along the lines of, hey Ivona, good to see you. They go along the lines of, surround yourself, like the 5 people that you surround yourself with, you become the sum total of the 5 people you most surround yourself with, if that makes sense. Hello, Sue. Oh, it's so lovely to see you on here as well. That's really cheered me up. Made me feel a bit better. I was just saying that I'm not feeling 100% today for some reason. Don't know what that's about, but I'm cheered up by all of your cheery greetings. So, so you would have heard that expression about you are the total sum of the 5 people you most spend your time with, which makes absolute sense because quite often the people you spend most of your time with, you take on their ideas and their thoughts and their plans. Hi, Frances. This morning, however, I wanted to uncover something that I call the internal audit, and why this is so important. And like everything, this is something not only that I observe in the people around me or my clients, I also observe in myself. So the weekend just gone, it's been quite a personally sentimental weekend for me. Is it appropriate to go into why or not? I guess I've shared the story publicly. It's the story that I refer to as a gift in ugly wrapping. So in 2010, I unfortunately lost twins. Some of you might go, oh, didn't know that. But yeah, I lost twins. Now, I guess there's a story within a story there, because it's a bit shocking to some people. They'll go, oh my gosh, that must be awful. You must be brave or strong or anything else like that. And that's not why I share that. Why I share that is that even 8 years on, even though I moved through it, you don't forget about it. And any of you that have coped with any form of grief or loss will know you don't forget about it, but you learn to live with it in a way. And most years I'm quite good about everything and how it all worked out. And this year I was pretty good. I thought, you know what? I'm actually not going to write my annual post, and I'm not going to re-stir the pot. Hi, Faye. I'm not going to re-stir the pot, because often what happens is where I reflect on those circumstances, which were 8 years ago, so I've had the passage of time to go through that, where I reflect on it, then sometimes for the people reading it or taking that information in, they can feel, it can make them feel bad too, and that's never my intention, because honestly, the place of where I'm at now is I really see it as the gift in ugly wrapping. But the reason that I give you that, which is quite a strong example, is to show or to demonstrate that for all of us, there will always be something that kind of grabs our attention and grabs our head. And whilst I get that spending time, with the 5 people and you become the sum of them, there's some internal audit stuff to go on as well. So I thought on this Monday Motivation, it would be really handy, really useful for me to share just some of those things that you can go and implement yourself, you can go and trial out yourself and just sort of test them for your own things. Now, what I will say is, it doesn't have to be something that's quite catastrophic. It doesn't have to be something that's big and bold. It can be as simple as you're standing right now on a train platform or sat on a crowded train and you're going into a job that you might not actually enjoy. It could be that you have got a few things to deal with this week that you aren't going to like. It could be that you've got difficult conversations to be had. It could be a number of things. And for some of you, it might literally be you've broken your fingernail and you feel devastated. For some of you, it might be that you have you're going through a grief thing. It could be that you are in a difficult relationship. It could be that your health isn't where you want it to be. It could be that your business isn't where you want it to be. It could be around your job. It could be around anything. What I want to say to you first up and foremost is, in terms of the internal audit, none of these are actually worse or less worse than the other. Because one of the things that our society unfortunately does is to say, oh my gosh, that's terrible, that isn't. You know, the amount of times I've heard people say, oh, that's a first world problem, you know. So there's a lot of different ways that we can look at this. And what I also will add to this, just as a kind of a care for you to care for yourself, if you are going through something and you are finding it increasingly difficult to deal with it, to cope with it, to live with it, don't just try and like amble through it yourself. There is always professional help. You know, if you've got money concerns, as Alan will tell you, because he's a coach that helps people amongst other things with that. You know, there are people that you can contact and get help from. If there's something going on for you personally within your family, you know, there will be family members that you can speak to. There might even be strangers you can speak to. There's associations like Samaritans. The association that helped me the most when I was going through my stuff was actually a charity called SANS. S for sugar, A, N for November, D for Delta, S for sugar, SANS. So there are lots of different places. And if you are one of the people that's watching this and you're not in the Visibility Vibes tribe, hop in there and you know, just post your questions in there. I know sometimes it feels like it can be really personal. For example, if you don't want to say what the thing is, you can always go in there and say something like, I'm going through some stuff at the moment, and I could use some support. You know, there are people that will send you good vibes. There are people that will send you prayers. There are people that will even send you Reiki or anything like that if you're into that kind of holistic stuff as well. So yeah, don't go it alone is what I'm saying. Now I'm missing the comments because I am flapping my gums. Francis says, no, something also we share. I lost twins the same year as well, but I got... it's doing that thing, Francis. Oh, that's really annoying. I wish I'd brought the other phone with me so I could read. In fact, bear with me. Now, I know that sounds a strange thing to do when you're on a live, to run off and get your other phone. But dear Facebook, people will normally comment and say more than just one thing in one moment. And I want to know what that is. So I am going to look on here to read your comment, Francis. Okay, and I can like the comments so that you know I can see them. So you say, no, something else we share. I lost a twin the same time as well, but I got, I don't know how to pronounce that, Amdullah, I think. I got over the drama very quickly. So in my mind, I don't associate it with trauma, so I never talk about it. Okay, that's one way in which people deal with this. One of the things, one of the reasons that I want to talk, not necessarily about what happened to me, because that was not my intention. I didn't actually intend to share that piece. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the internal audit was because there are things that we can unwittingly do which attribute to our success in a thing or our demise in a thing. And when I say the success in a thing, I mean the kind of outcome that you would rather wish that you had. Ivona is saying, going through many things that I flagged up, including the broken nail. Bless you, Ivona. I shouldn't laugh because, like, seriously, I've heard people speak about all sorts of different things, and people can be just as heartbroken as breaking a nail, quite literally, as they can do about having to move home. So I think I have got all of those. Okay. I'm going to come back to your comments because I want to be able to share my internal tips, and I don't want to get distracted and have too long a live on here. So I will come back to your comments. So, I mean, there's a lot of comments on here, and it's really strange that specifically women and families don't always talk about the things that they're going through, or what they've gone through, and it doesn't always have to be traumatic. So there's something in what France Lee said, just up there. Read the comment if you didn't see it. Some people just don't talk about it, and it serves them. But for other people, not talking about it kind of festers inside and almost poisons them inside. I've heard women that have been talking about the heartbreak of losing children, you know, miscarriage, babies. I lost babies, a boy and a girl. You know, so for me, what I did within my mind was made that, oh, well, that is different. So that's the result that I got, you know. I wasn't able to just go, oh, it's just one of those things. And sometimes what people will say around you, which is why it's important to be able to surround yourself with people that can support you when you need it. When people said these things happen for a reason, which they'll say to any of the things that any of you are going through, including the broken nail, these things happen for a reason, oh well, there's next time, and all of those sorts of things. Often that isn't the most helpful thing for the person to hear. I know that as a coach, I know that as somebody that works with people closely. And if you see a therapist or a counsellor or anybody like that, I'm sure it's the very last thing that they would say when exploring your journey. And just to put some internal reference on that external reference, when people say things like that, often they actually don't deeply understand or know what to say for the best, or they deeply or truly believe that they are saying something that is going to be helpful to you. So don't demonise them for trying to support. But this is why surrounding yourself with people is important. But here's some of the internal stuff that I'd invite you to think about as you navigate anything. And for those of you that are like, you know what, life's great at the moment, that's fine. I was very fortunate, and I think the reason why I kind of walked through and moved through this quite well was I was very fortunate. Little did I know before the event that I did some really deep personal development work. It was almost like somewhere out there somebody knew, Jenny, this stuff that you're learning to be able to teach other people or to help other people with is actually going to be really useful for you, so pay attention. And I did, and I enjoyed neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, which is why I get very upset when people say it's about manipulation. It was most helpful to me in a very difficult time, and it helped me to move through the very raw emotions in quite a quick period. So, you know, that's all I'm going to say on that, really. But yeah, it helped me to move through that in quite a quick period. So being able to use those tools for myself and being able to help like thousands of people literally since has to me just been the biggest gift. So hey, Ian, Aop Ian, Ian's on. Gosh, we've got a right full house on this morning. Chatty little bunch, and thank you for the love hearts and the thumbs up as well. It makes a difference when you're doing a Facebook Live and you see that interactivity. So some of the inner stuff. Okay, here's a good place to start, because this weekend I found myself, to be honest, firing on all cylinders. I'd say about 98%. About 98%, you know, not perfect, but that's okay. And it was interesting because as I navigated through the weekend, there were a few things that came up. There was one particular difficult situation I had on Saturday where, you know, it just wasn't pleasant. And it was interesting because here's where I found my head going to, and I wonder if you've ever experienced this too. I found myself with this difficult, it was a difficult conversation, but this information being like bombarded, thrown at me, like unwanted, thinking to myself, oh, for goodness sakes, cut me a break. And then I heard my internal voice say, do it any other time, but just not this weekend. I don't need it this weekend. Now, the reason that I share that seemingly innocuous kind of sentence with you was because that showed that deep down, probably like subconsciously, maybe even from body memory, if you're into that work, I know as an osteopath, France Lee's would be as well, I found myself kind of going to that place. And I thought, well, if that those words came into my mind, if those thoughts came into my mind, that is somewhere in my mind or in my psyche or in my body. So there is a percentage where, let's face it, I'm feeling a bit, oh, woe is me, woe is me. It then got me curious into some other areas of my life, as I look to grow my business more into a company, as I look to extend certain things that I do in my life, make certain changes, from where it could be where I live to who I associate myself with, to what I do in my business, to who I work with, all sorts of things like that. As I went through and kind of reflected those various different life circumstances, it made me think, well, if I'm saying this thing about this particular scenario, I'm likely saying it about all of these others too, on some level. But here's what's interesting. When we're playing the tape in our mind over and over and over again, then it's likely that we're so used to putting it on automatic replay that we don't actually hear the words on a conscious level anymore. But subconsciously, that will be driving us. People talk in the business world about playing small, and up-leveling. Basically, in normal language, for those of you that aren't into sort of personal development talk, playing small has become a phrase that's been coined for when we know that there's more stuff that we can do in the world, but we're not doing it because maybe we're sitting within our comfort zone and we're keeping ourselves safe, therefore being a smaller version of what we could be. And the kind of the up-leveling and stuff is knowing that there's almost like a jump that we could take, but rather than taking a massive leap, an exponential leap, no, I haven't got E Squared, the book, down beside me, or a quantum leap, that we're looking at going up in levels, okay? So looking at the inner work, makes lots of sense. It's so true, and I need to call myself out, number one, but I need to call those of you out who are, people go, oh, is it victim mentality? No. What it is, it's all about what you tell yourself and what is on automatic pilot. And for many individuals that I speak to, what plays on automatic pilot is the hardest thing to spot. It's like it's in our blind spot and we can't hear it at the same time. So it can be a dangerous little critter. It can affect how we do things. It can be the reason why we might say and feel like we're being logical when we say, no, we're going to take it one step at a time. It can be the reason why we say, no, I haven't got time for that. It could be the reason why we say, that's not my priority right now. Underneath that will be a reason like this, an internal thing on automatic pilot that is actually stopping us. Because if the automatic pilot said, actually, I'm really scared, no one's ever done this before, and it might not work out and I might make myself look an idiot, in some respects, your internal dialogue knows that you'd go, yeah, well, of course I haven't done it before because, I haven't, and this is the first time I'm going to attempt it. But when it says, no, you're a busy person, you've got this thing to do, this thing to do, or remember what happened to so-and-so when you did it, or remember what happened when you did it before, it makes it a more logical way for your brain to go, you know what, they're right. I just need to do that. And then, as Frances quite rightly says there, it becomes the norm and then it just plays out and you don't even know that it's going. So here are a couple of really great tips to help with this, regardless of where you are on the spectrum, whether you're right in it now or not. So notice, like, at any given time when you're doing things, and it's funny, it's like, imagine you're a magnet being sucked to like a metal sheet. It's almost like as you're being sucked to the sheet halfway across the kind of the slam dunk, it's like having to open and look within yourself and go, nope, that I'm not going there, and literally pulling yourself back. That's what it may feel like to start off with, because it will feel like you're really flicking a switch, a complete U-turn or change of direction. But here's the thing, it's important to notice when that's going on and what it's about, when it comes up, what it covers, etc., etc. So notice like what you're thinking about at the time, because there are times when you'll go, oh, hold on a second, I didn't even realise I even had that on my mind. Then just look, just be aware of, well, now that I've identified this thing's going on, what did I say to myself? Like I did on Saturday, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm banging that drum. For me, it feels a bit like if I'm doing this here, I must be doing this, gosh, in other places too. But don't use it to beat yourself up. Use it to notice, because then you can do something with it. And this is the most important thing. Whether you do something with it today, do something with it next week, next month, next year, is totally up to you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Just know that it's important to notice it. Now, you might wonder where some of this stuff comes from and how it gets in there. And here's the thing. I looked at, rather than just the people that I'm associating myself with, because I felt like part of that statement can put us into judgment mode. We can then judge, well, that person's not good, this person's all right, which doesn't help either. Look at what goes in. There's an expression, an old computer expression, rubbish in, rubbish out. Like, think about and look at what you are surrounding yourself with. I saw somebody recently that said they were going through a bad time, they were overwhelmed, they had too much to do. And I think it was a comment here on Facebook, and somebody jumped in and said, well, have you tried this, this and this? Their immediate response was, no, I'm too busy amongst looking after my kids, watching my favourite series on Netflix and doing something else, I think it was, and and trying to pull myself out of bed or something like that. It's quite difficult. And I thought that's really interesting. I think being a parent is a full-time job in itself. So looking after kids is a full-time job in itself, and then either running a business or going to work on top of that, it's like a lot of stuff to do. What I did think was interesting was that somebody was talking about not having enough time and being in overwhelm, also talking about binge watching their favourite series. And it occurred to me, well, if you're going to give your time away to binge watching your favourite series, why don't you claim half of that time back? It might take twice as long to watch it, but then you'll get twice the results in being able to do the thing that you wanted to do, because now you're giving at least half of your time back. Personally, I would just ditch it completely and give all of my time back for that. So the things that that we're doing, the laying in bed piece, I get it, we're tired. For many of us, we're not going to bed early enough, or we're not getting enough sleep. I'm very guilty of it. On a Sunday night, I get very excitable and I'm answering messages that I don't normally answer at late o'clock. But if you're finding that you are feeling tired when you get up in the mornings, or not feeling like you've had enough sleep, this is going to affect the thoughts and stuff going into your head. And finally, what are you letting in and what are you giving out? There's two sides of the same stick. What are you listening to? I know people, and it's not my choice, but I do know people that get up in the morning and they'll put the TV on with the news on, like some sort of news channel, and they'll just listen to the news over and over again. This is not to say that listening to the news is good or bad. One of the things that you'll find, and I notice this when I hop onto Twitter to have a look at stuff, is that quite often the news stories can be you'll normally get one good news story, but then it can be a bit doom and gloom. This is happening with the economy. Trump's just said this. Brexit is not going to happen. Britain's going to be broken again. We're doing this, we're doing that. And when you think about it, even those of you that just have the TV on in the background, all you are doing is filling yourself with these messages that you probably don't need to hear right now, given the other stuff that you're going through. It's the same with opening the newspapers. What are you feeding and what are you filling in your mind? Having the radio on in the background, you're listening to a talk show where it's kind of doom and gloom. And again, it's just to say to recognise what you're letting in. There are times where, I do go onto Twitter or I do listen to the radio. I don't actually watch a lot of TV at all now. I don't personally possess a TV anymore. And this has been something that I've done since about 2003. So it's been 15-year practice. And again, it's nice to sit and watch. But sometimes I think, I could be reading or I could be filling my mind with something else. YouTube is popular for that reason, because you get to choose what you let into your mind. Are you going to let in the crazy cat videos? Are you going to let in something that's a bit personal development, uplifting, motivational? Are you going to watch real life stories? I watched a really great interview, Michelle Obama and Oprah, talking about her book Becoming. This is Michelle Obama's book Becoming, not Oprah's. So I felt like, yes, that was an hour. That was an hour of my time where I chose to watch something, but I chose what I let in. And conversely, a good indicator of what you are letting in on a regular basis, even when you don't realise, is what comes out. You know, I see it a lot here, having this channel that's quite public, and I'm so grateful for those of you that come and jump on that know me. I also get people that don't know me giving me their two pennies worth on what I should do and how I should do things and what they like about what I do and what I don't. And the honest truth is, I'm always open to feedback, but at the same time, there comes a point where if I listen to everything that everybody said, I would, like many of the people that I help, I'd never do a video. I wouldn't put anything out publicly. I'd be scared to sell my services. I'd be scared to talk about what I'm doing. I wouldn't repeat an email again because, God forbid, I had a typo in there, or a link was broken, so no, I can't send it again. Honestly, I literally would not get out of bed in the morning because I'd be so worried about what everyone thinks, what everyone's doing, how it's working, how it isn't. So it's really important to have a look at not only what you're letting in, but what you're letting out. And quite often, things that are meant or intended as feedback for other people, particularly the people we feel closest to, so family, friends, peers, might even be, your fellow vibe tribers. Sometimes what we intend to be or give as kind of good feedback or information or just letting you know is actually a judgment on them, a criticism on them, which actually shows that there's a judgment on you and a criticism on you internally. And that is one of the most invisible traits that people don't see. So really have a look at what's going on. I'm kind of going to say sorry, not sorry that this has gone on for like 30 minutes. I wanted to cover all of those points. And I also flipped in the extra story about my personal journey, which I didn't mean to do. But I hope that this is useful to you in some way. This is one of those Monday motivations that not only will I personally share with people, and whether you decide to share that too, I would love it for you to share. You might share it as a private message, you might share it publicly on your page, you might even share it in your own group or a group that you belong to where you can and where you're allowed to. The thing that I want you to know is that there are a lot of pieces in there to unpack, and for me, certainly, I will go back, even though this is my own Facebook Live, I will go back to this and re-pick out the pieces, because if I'm going to be talking about this stuff, whilst I appreciate I'm not perfect, I want to be able to do it in the cleanest way that I can. So go back, have a look bit by bit. You don't need to sit and binge watch this again and again, but you might want to go back to specific areas and just notice what's going on for you. And particularly reading the comments, which have been flying through thick and fast. So thank you so much for those comments. Really means a lot. What I would also do is end by inviting you to think about, two things you can do. If you are an overthinker and you are prone to worry, you will actually enjoy the first part of this process. And that's to think about what's been going on for you. Here's what I would suggest you do. Starting from this moment right now, go back 24 hours, 48 hours, and if you want to, a week. Just have a quick quick overview of the things that have come up for you which haven't served you. It might be comments that people have said, it might be things that well-meaning friends have talked about. It might be, you were having a conversation and somebody said, no, not interested. Whatever that thing is, just go back and have a review of that. And just, be honest with yourself, because you can only be honest with yourself. Honestly, what came up for you? Did something similar to mine come up where it's like, oh my gosh, but this happened? Because when you can start to observe what's going on, this is helpful. The other way to play this is to think about something that is really important to you that you want to do. And it has seemed, up until this point, it seemed difficult. It seemed like there's been a lot of energy and effort. And by the way, there's very rarely things in life where you click your fingers and it falls into your lap, regardless of what you believe in. I said to somebody recently, people talk about the law of attraction and throwing it out there, and whatever you throw out there will come back in. But it's like you need to write your order down. You need to say, I want the pizza without cheese, extra spinach, extra vegetables, no meat, 10-inch pizza, lots of tomato sauce and piping hot. You want to get it to that point where you've got that order nailed so that you can give it to somebody else and they know exactly what you want. And what I see people do is say, give me the pizza. No, you choose. I don't mind. I don't mind if I have 10-inch or 14-inch. No, I don't mind, just whatever's easiest. That is not a way to place your order. So if you notice that you're doing that with yourself, then get really clear, get really specific, and have a look at, how you can get clarity moving forward and what comes up for you when you want to move forward. Okay, hope that's helpful. So I couldn't read out all your comments. I'll be squinting like this, but just know that I'm here. Continue with the comments, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. Thank you for the shares, and I look forward to speaking to some of you or seeing some of you at 12 o'clock back here for the 12 days of Vismas, which is all about you being visible in a short space of time, i.e. 12 days, in an advent calendar kind of way before Christmas. Lots of love to you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing. And most of all, thank you for your beautiful and candid comments underneath. Bye for now.